Alright, just going to look at the couple of games I played on the ladder just now. I'm executing basically the same strategy in two different matchups. There's slight variations because I'm playing against opponents that can do different things. But here's the first one. I'm playing as Zerg, like always, against the Terran. So the plan here is to make Zerglings and Banelings initially to hold off any initial attacks, then go to Hydralisks, get the +1 attack upgrade, and then walk across the map and hope that wins the game. If not, there are transitions I can do after it, but the first thing I want to do is just try to go see if I can win the game by getting the attack upgrade for the Hydralisks and win the game with that. So I do what I do in the Terran opening all the time, which is make a hatchery first, then a gas geyser, and then a spawning pool. It makes upgrade for Zergling speed line up exactly so that you have the right amount of gas when the pool finishes to start the Zergling speed upgrade, and immediately make 2 queens, which helps you produce more units. I'm setting my first couple overlords over to spots on the opponent side of the map where they can see units going in and out easily, so that I have an idea of what my opponent is doing. I actually get some really good information from my first overlord in this matchup that helps me not die in the early game. So there's my gas. I make the spawning pool over here. I'm just trying to have it so that my units can move around easily and my opponents cannot. Well, they still can because I didn't actually put behind the minerals over here, but it's not the end of the world. The main thing is I want to be able to surround their units because all my units early are melee and they will have ranged units as a Terran player. So I haven't seen one thing about what's going on. I know that often Terrans make a Reaper early. I think I do spot that with one of my overlords coming in. Just confirm, okay, my Terran opponent is doing at least the first thing is what you normally see in the matchup, which is that they send their little Reaper, first biological unit they make, over to the base to scout what's going on and see if they can do any damage. So there's the pool. You see I start up the Zergling speed upgrade immediately. I start up 2 queens immediately. I've been making my overlord so I'm not supply blocked. That does become an issue later. See that overload right there? Just saw the Reaper go under it. So I've seen, okay, good. I do need to make my normal Zerglings, but I only need 4 Zerglings for that, which is how many I just default make. Try to catch it here. You can't really catch them off creep if your Zerglings don't have the speed upgrade finished yet. I do at least not eat the mine that it throws there, so that's not so bad. I'm not sure why I made an extra pair of Zerglings there. I don't really need that. That's a little bit too many Zerglings, but ends up working out because of what my opponent is doing. But really, there should only be 4 Zerglings there. And the only reason you make more is if 2 of them have died, then you replace that pair. But they hatch in pairs, so if you lose one, it's okay. When you lose the second one, you really do want to have 3 to 4 Zerglings to be able to chase the Reaper around. So you see over here on the mini-map that there is some motion outside my opponent's base. So I go check on that. Okay, well, it's the Reaper going home. I see there's a factory up here, so that could mean a Hellion opening, which is an early mechanical unit they can build and come try to harass my drones with. So I know that means I'm going to need a Baneling nest earlier than I was originally going to get it. And I'd also like to... I even see the Hellions there with my Overlord. So when I place my buildings, I also make a little wall down at my natural that makes it harder for the Hellions to get at my drones and attack my workers, so that my economy is not going to get damaged too badly. So these extra Zerglings I built are working out for me, but really I could have been building them now and had more drones earlier, so I would have more resources to use. So that's a Baneling nest right there at the front. And then in a second I'm making a single evolution chamber because I'm going to have to hold off the attack. And then I put this spine here just to make a complete wall so that units can't run through that. I've seen the Hellions. You don't make Hellions as a Terran if you were not planning to come out on the map and try to bot. So there they are leaving. You can see it on the mini-map. So they are heading toward my base. I think they go over and check on my third, which I think at the time they arrived there doesn't have any drones at it, which is great. I've been spending my money pretty effectively here. Start up another gas because I know I'm going to need to morph some more Banelings. I also just have full saturation at the bases, so I start my layer, and I also start the +1 armor upgrade here for my ground units, which is what I have. because it keeps them alive longer against most Terran units. So I want to not fight on off the creep as much as I can avoid it, because I want to try to surround their units if I can. And if not, I'm just constantly making Zerglings to reinforce here, so that my only goal right now is to not die, because I know if my opponent has made this many Hellions that they don't have a big economy at home. So my main goal here is to just not die to this pressure. We both do some micro here. I actually spend a lot of the time just making more units and not microing a ton. I do sometimes try to get the Baneling into their Hellions when I'm able, but I don't always have the micro for it. I also see I've missed a Queen Inject here. That's really important to be able to keep making units, so I need to be microing less. This is still following my actual camera in the game. I really need to have gone back at this point and hit my Queen Injects to be sure I can keep up my production. And now I'm starting to float a lot of minerals because of this, because I'm not able to make as many units as I should be able to if I was doing the injects right. So I see I haven't made a Queen here, should have already done that. Should have already hit this inject. Can see by counting this Queen's energy, I've already missed 2 injects over the course of the game. So I make a Hydra Den, because again, the plan was to get the plus attack for the Hydras and go attack my opponent. I just survived for them to not win the game right now. So eventually the Hellions are so damaged they have to back up. I start spraying the creep. I really should have had that creep tuner down a little bit earlier. Should have had a couple down by now. Okay, good. Let's hit that inject. Still didn't get the inject at the natural. There, no? Still not, huh? There it is. And then the one here at the third too. Okay. So all the hatcheries are going to be making enough larvae that I can actually produce what I need to. I did start the Hydralisk Den right as that pressure was ending. I started the speed for the Baneling, so they'll be able to move faster and get better angles on my opponent. They're really important to have with the Hydralisks, because Hydralisks, they deal a lot of damage, but they're super glass cannons, so you can't have them taking any damage. So you want the Banelings in front of them to go and explode on whatever the opponent has. I do get the upgrade there for the Hydralisks. It makes them both move faster and have 1 additional range so that they fire farther. My wall here is actually causing a little bit of an issue with units leaving my base. I could probably reposition that Spine Crawler now that the threat of the Hellions is over. I do go over here and check this third. I should really check the other third over here as well to see what my opponent is doing. I don't actually remember if I actually got the upgrade or not for the +1 ranged attack for the Hydralisks in this game. Yeah, it looks like it's researching, but I don't know if it actually finishes. So my Hydras get here, take care of this Viking that the... Oh, how did I go to everyone cam? So I do take care of the Viking that was trying to help my Overlords. I make the hurt Overlord into an Overseer that will provide detection. And when it hatches again, it will have its full hit points. Right now, it's got about 25% of its hit points. I do make a mistake here and engage before the Overseer is finished into these mines. So the mines will end up killing all my Zerglings, but also damaging some of my opponent's units too, because they do friendly fire. I realize, oh no, I lost all my Zerglings, Banelings. I have to back up with my Hydralisks. They are not units that can fight by themselves. I need the reinforcements. Your forces are taking damage. Am I not following my camera anymore? There we go. So I back up the Hydralisks. I've rallied all my hatcheries across the map here. I backed that rally up just a little bit so I can group up my army away from where my opponent is. I see my +1 attack is about to finish for my Hydralisks. I don't know if I actually wait for that or not, or if my main concern was just to get the Banelings. Either of those are reasonable. But I think ideally I want to actually get the +1 attack and then engage. I also have not left any drop defense at home, so if my opponent counterattacks with the dropship, I'm just letting the third base die here. So there I morph in the Baneling, so I can actually go back up the ramp with the Hydralisks. Ideally I would also have an Overlord or Overseer over there already, so that they could go up and give me some high ground vision on the way up. Send a drone over here to take this base, because that's the thing you do while you attack is you expand behind it. That way if you don't end up defeating your opponent right then, you can transition into a more economic game and just keep making bigger army for later, getting higher tech units. Like Hydralisks are a mid-tech unit. Banelings with speed are a mid-tech unit. Do not have any tech up to later game yet because I'm seeing how this goes, but I'm ready to do those transitions, and I will be able to be safe to do that after this attack. So see, my opponent actually counters here with a drop, but I have so much stuff at their base that it ends up I can just overrun them. So I'm getting near all their production. I'm going to take out some workers with these last two Banelings. Two Banelings blows up all the workers. I got several. I made some queens just blindly when I went across the map, so they're standing in my main base to keep the drop from hopefully hurting that too much. But I'm actually just overrunning my opponent here at their base. And once you get on top of the Terran production facilities, it's really hard for them to recover it all. They just can't ever actually group up their forces to then have an effective army anymore. That's it for that one. So I'm going to do essentially the same strategy in this other game I played against a Protoss opponent, where, again, well, okay, it's a random opponent. So I'm blindly doing this at first. At first, I don't know what race they are. But I just blindly since I do such similar things in the early game, I can often find out what my opponent is before I decide exactly what I'm going to do. The build I do is risky if my opponent spawns a Zerg, but that's a 1 in 3 chance, and they might not even be doing something that aggressive, because many people over-defend against random players because of the fact they can be Zerg. So what random players do to counter that is they just play super greedy and make all the drones in the world, or all the workers in the world, of whatever race they are. So I'm sending my overlords here to just hang out in front of my opponent's base, give me information about what's going on over there. I've been working on trying to position my next couple overlords out in front of my bases a little bit further so that I get more information about what's incoming to my base. So this is what I do standard against both Zerg and Terran, is to go hatch first, make my hatchery, then a gas, then the spawning pool. Make 4 Zerglings, make Zergling speed and 2 queens as soon as the spawning pool finishes, and then just keep making drones for as long as I can get away with it, until I need to get a layer so I can get Hydralisks and Baneling speed. So you see this on my drone up here a little bit early before making the spawning pool. You always want to put especially in the early game, put your drone where it's going to be building the building before you have the money, and then build it when you have the money, so that you aren't giving it a command to use money and then having it walk a long way before you actually get the effect of spending that money. So I immediately put the 3 in the gas when that finishes, because again, it makes the Zergling speed line up with when the hatchery finishes and the Zergling, when the spawning pool finishes. So I see now my opponent is a Protoss, because I see the probe in the base. So I know, okay, my opponent's Protoss. If their probe is this late, that means they're not cannon rushing me. They might be doing some other strategy. They might put a proxy pylon down somewhere. Proxy in this game means in proximity to your opponent's base, and it's proxy. So instead of building their structure on their own side of the map near their base, they build it over near my base. The goal with that is that once Protoss have a upgrade called Warp Gate, which is usually the first upgrade they get, units that build out of their gateways can warp in anywhere they have a power field, which the pylon provides. So I saw my opponents weren't doing anything super aggressive. That means I can just make drones for as long as I please. I send my Zerglings out a little bit for a couple of the more common places. One might put a pylon just to see if there's that problem out on the map. I get over here. I just click on that as a forge. Okay, so my opponent's doing something defensive. Oh, and their Nexus is already up. That means they went with a really early Nexus. They're not going to be attacking me soon. That means I can send my drone over here and make a third base. I do this kind of badly because I send my drone, I give it the command, and it walks a long way before it actually becomes a building, because I issue the command so early. So my Zergling speed upgrade is about to finish. I saw there were cannons at my opponent's base. So I don't think my Zerglings can actually really check out. Well, I saw a forge, so I assumed that there's cannons. So I don't think my Zerglings can actually check out very much over there. I should still actually be putting them on the watchtowers on this map, which it has too, because you can get a lot of information by holding those. What I am having them do, though, is knock down the rocks between my second base and my third base in a second here. because that way I can get better surrounds on my opponent if they come over to engage. I did correctly put my creep tumor out here with my queen. Instead of doing your second inject with the queen at the natural base there, the first expansion you take, if you take the queen over and put a creep tumor down, it helps start the creep sooner, get it connected sooner, and you can't really actually use as many larvae as you get in this matchup. So I make a single evolution chamber for this matchup now. That's actually, I had been making 2, but it turns out I actually only need the 1. I actually only need the attack upgrade early, and I don't need to get the second evolution chamber until later. So I was wasting 200 minerals and 100 gas total. No, even more, because I get the attack upgrade here and not the armor upgrade. The armor upgrade costs 150, so it's basically 250 minerals and 150 gas. So start of evolution chamber. The plan is going to be to get +1 attack. I started up a baneling nest because the plan is that the Hydralisks need banelings with them to tank, to clear out units that would otherwise connect with the Hydralisks and kill them. So this is still, goal is drawing up all the bases. You want about 16 to 18 on minerals at each one, and then all 4 of the gases should be full, 3 each, 3, 3. Oh, see, I missed 1 too on that one. So when the layer's done, I want to make a Hydralisk den, and I want to get the baneling speed upgrade. So the layer's done here. I see that when I get back home right there. I think in a second I start up the Hydralisk den. Just seeing what my overlords see over there for a second. I think I come back over here. There it is. The Hydralisk den. Get the baneling speed right when I start the Hydralisk den. These Zerglings have been working on these rocks for a long time, but they don't have anything else they need to be doing, really, other than maybe hold the watchtower. Which ideally, yeah, maybe I make another set of Zerglings and do that. My money's getting really high here. That's intentional because I want to make a whole bunch of Hydralisks when the Hydralisk den finishes. So I check and make sure I have enough overlords that actually have supply for that. I take another base here just to make more larvae so that I can make a bunch of Hydralisks. Zerglings take a lot of larvae to make because it only costs you 50 minerals to make a pair of Zerglings. So it also takes a lot of larvae to make those, which is what you reinforce with Zerglings and then turn them into banelings when you're out on the map attacking. I also know that I want to hit before about 9 minutes because that's around when the Storm upgrade normally finishes, which is a really important upgrade for Protoss that let them combat this. Once it gets to about 9 minutes, they can have Storm for their High Templars, which is an AoE damage spell that is highly effective against Hydralisks. It's pretty decent against Zerglings and Banelings, but they're kind of too fast if you micro them well. The Hydralisks will just eat storms all day and die. Let's see, what are my opponents' upgrades doing? See, they're making High Templar. Oh, their Storm upgrade is actually already done. They had it done super fast. I don't think I saw them cast a Storm this one, but typically they don't have Storm done just yet. So my plan here is just make a whole bunch of Hydralisks, reinforce it with Zerglings and Banelings, and go attack. So I finished the +1 missile. I want to attack. I really want to have around 15 or 20 Hydralisks to do this. Make a bunch of reinforcing Zerglings here. I go over here and kind of see what's going on with my opponent. Put my Banelings out front. I see, oh, it's a whole bunch of Zealots. I want my Banelings to connect with the Zealots because the Zealots will destroy the Hydralisks otherwise. So I connect with several of the Zealots. I try to fight a little bit, but decide to back up just because I don't actually have enough Banelings to not... I did see the High Templar there, so I go, oh no, my opponent might be able to use Storm. Well, I think maybe they'll be able to use Storm in the future because I don't realize they actually have it yet. So they might have actually generated enough energy on each of these two. No, there's some here that have enough to Storm. Did I just miss it? Oh, see, they stormed on top of my Zerglings and not my Hydralisk, because what I had done, if I back this up for a couple seconds... If I back this up for a couple seconds, I had actually gone and pre-spread my Hydralisks out. See, I see their ones there. I actually didn't see the storm when I was doing this live, but I had already spread my Hydralisks out so they weren't all standing in one place to just all eat the storms. So I let these ones eat some of the storms before I move up in with the other ones. So they've taken... Storm does friendly fire, so they just stormed actually a bunch of their own High Templar. That's unfortunate for my opponent. So then I go, okay, well, that's it. I guess I can just move up here with my Hydralisks. My opponent not only has Zealots, and I have so many Hydralisks. I have a few Zerglings to help tank while my Hydralisks attack them. And now I'm just going to run my opponent over. Because they can't reinforce fast enough because they just lost a whole bunch of their highest tech units. They try to defend here with these cannons and the photon overcharge on the pylons, but it's not enough. I just target down each pylon. My opponent GG's out, says good game, and leaves the game. So that's this basic strategy executed against two different kinds of opponent.